Hey guys, welcome back to Elevate His Soul. So today we are continuing with the part 7. The Supreme Lord said, "May whatever you have prayed for be fulfilled," and then departed, although the princes were unhappy to accept such separation, for they had not seen the Lord to their full satisfaction. Thereafter, when the Pracetās emerged from the water, they saw how the trees had grown very tall, as if blocking the path to heaven. Because of the king's absence, agriculture had been practically neglected, and so trees had covered the entire surface of the earth. Upon seeing this, the Pracetās became very angry, and like Lord Shiva at the time of devastation, they began to emit fire and wind from their mouths to make the earth treeless. When Lord Brahma saw how the trees were being reduced to ashes, he immediately approached the sons of King Prācīnabarhi and pacified them with words full of logic and reason. Then, at the advice of Lord Brahma, the remaining priests fearfully delivered their daughter Marisa to the Pracetās, and the princess accepted her as their wife. Later on, from the womb of Marisha, Brahma's son Daksha, although originally a Brahmana, was born as a Kshatriya as a result of his having offended Lord Shiva. Daksha's bodily luster surpassed all others, and since he was very expert in performing fruitive activities, Lord Brahma once again appointed him as a Prajapati so that he could generate living entities during the Chakshusha Manvantara. The Daksha Yajna had taken place during the Swayambhuva Manvantara. Thereafter, during the Raivata Manvantara, which is the 5th, Daksha had undergone severe austerities, so that at the beginning of the Chakshusha Manvantara, the 6th, he regained his former opulence by the mercy of Lord Shiva. After returning home, the Pracetās ruled the earth for thousands of celestial years. Finally, however, they remembered the blessings of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and so they decided to leave home after putting Daksha in charge of their wife. The 10 Pracetās then went to the seashore where the liberated sage Jajari was residing, and there they practiced mystic yoga as a means of becoming perfect in Krishna consciousness. At that time, Narada came to see the Pracetās, and as soon as they saw the great sage, they got up from their sitting postures to offer him obeisances. After worshipping Narada and seeing that he was properly seated, the Pracetās addressed him as follows: "O great Brahmana, it is our good fortune that we are able to see you here. Just as the sun relieves people from the fear of night by his traveling, you drive away the fears of those who meet you in the course of your wanderings. O spiritual master, due to having become overly attached to family life, we have almost forgotten the instructions we had received from Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu. Therefore, kindly enlighten us once again with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge, so that we may cross over the darkness of material existence." Narada replied, "A civilized human being has 3 kinds of births: by seminal discharge, Shaukra; by initiation from the spiritual master, Savitra; and by the Brahmanical initiation, whereby he gets a chance to worship Lord Vishnu, Yadnika. In spite of having received these opportunities, if one does not actually engage in the service of the Lord, his activities are to be considered useless. Without devotional service or satisfying the Supreme Lord, what is the meaning of austerity, cultivation of knowledge, or sensual powers? All types of transcendental practices are useless if they do not help one to ultimately realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the real goal of self-realization. As pouring water on the root of a tree nourishes the trunk, branches, twigs, and leaves, and as supplying food to the stomach gives strength to all the bodily limbs and senses, so simply by worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all the demigods who are His parts and parcels become satisfied. Just as the sun creates rain-giving clouds and then once again evaporates the water during the summer, and as the bodies of all living entities are made from the earth and then later on return to dust, so everything emanates from the Supreme Personality of Godhead and then again enters Him in due course of time. Just as sunshine is non-different from the sun, this cosmic manifestation is non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. During wakefulness, the senses are seen to work as parts and parcels of the whole body, whereas during sleep, they seem to be unmanifest. Similarly, the whole manifest and non-manifest creation is simultaneously one with and different from the Supreme Lord. In the sky, we sometimes see illumination, sometimes clouds, and sometimes darkness. In the same way, the three modes of material nature variously manifest themselves as energies of the Supreme Absolute, but He remains unchanging. My dear princes, just engage yourselves in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. By showing mercy to all living entities, by remaining satisfied, and by controlling your senses, you can very easily satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Janardana. After instructing the Pracetās, Narada Muni departed from Brahmaloka, and by hearing from the great sage, the sons of King Barhisat became firmly attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ultimately, while absorbing themselves in meditation upon the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, the Pracetās attained life's ultimate destination by going back home, back to Godhead. Sukadeva Goswami said to Maharaja Parikshit, "O best of kings, I have now finished describing the descendants of Swayambhuva Manu's first son, Uttanapada. Next, I shall tell you about the activities of King Priyavrata and his descendants." After hearing all these topics from the great sage Maitreya, Vidura became overwhelmed with feelings of ecstasy. As tears fell from his eyes, Vidura prostrated himself at the lotus feet of his spiritual master and declared, "O great mystic and devotee, by your causeless mercy, I have been shown the path of liberation from this world of darkness, which leads one back to the spiritual world." After offering his obeisances, Vidura took permission and then departed for Hastinapura so that he could share the spiritual benefit he had received with his relations. Thank you. This chapter is completed. Radhe Radhe.